Welcome to episode 5 of the Matlock podcast. Clause.
In this week's episode, Madeline finds herself at odds with Billy and Sarah over her growing relationship with Olympia. When a plaintiff relapses before testifying, it brings back terrible memories for her, and for Edwin. But can the team find a way to prove the woman's drug taking was instigated by prison staff? Or will the case fall apart without a trustworthy face for the jury to believe in?
Any ideas about Maddie's computer?
No, I thought it was bad RAM, but the RAM seems fine.
Ugh, I hate bad RAMs.
Good evening, Ian.
Good evening, Gerry. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Bad.
Yeah, very good.
Actually, that clip we just heard is one of the examples of some of the interesting character stuff that we get in this week's episode.
You see, interesting, I think I may have a potentially a problem. Maybe not solely in this episode, but the direction it could potentially take.
Okay, well, we can discuss that when we get to the relevant section.
And in order to do that, you've got to give us the socials.
Okay. At Colombo Podcast on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Facebook, if you want to speak to us. Show notes available at colombopodcast.com. And if you want to hear next week's episode already, as usual, head to the Colombo Podcast Productions YouTube channel, where we always release 7 days ahead of the podcast.
Do you like the more efficient approach we're taking?
Yes.
Good, let's crack on.
The recap is becoming more and more uniform, a bit like the Quantum Leap one at the start of each episode. It's just the same stuff from the first episode.
I must admit, I'm not really aware of it because just like Quantum Leap, I skip over, fast forward.
There is a mention in this one reminding us that she has access to Olympia's laptop and emails.
We start with a bit of misdirection.
Just a little.
That's not a relation to miscongeniality.
No, we think we're following Madeline into a shop, and in voiceover we hear her saying to remember to lean into the idea of being old and bumbling.
However, we quickly see that it is not in fact Madeline, but that Edwin is behind this stranger and he is taking Olympia's laptop into a PC repair shop.
This is crazy.
Why?
Well, for a start, that's not what PC repair shops are there for. No. And for a second thing, they would immediately know it wasn't his laptop.
Yes. I've locked myself out of my son's phone. Can you get into it? But keep all the data.
And give me all the password login details for everything that's ever been accessed.
He's in a coma. I need his banking details.
And he's just died.
Yeah.
In fact, this is a line that we get to with Edwin, because within this tech shop, he has to give a reason for why they want to access an attachment that is mentioned in an email but not attached to the email.
The tech explanations throughout this episode didn't feel that authentic to me.
No.
All this talk of server rooms and these days, really?
It feels like it was written by someone who has used email, but it's not in any way a tech person.
Yeah. What are they trying to do?
They're trying to get a file that was attached during a conversation about the Wilbrexa case, but is not attached directly to an email that's been sent to Olympia. So she never received this file, so they can't access it through her emails. But they know that it was there because it's referenced, or they see it in the chain.
Yeah.
Which is not something that tech support can help them with.
It didn't exist. You didn't receive this.
Yeah. Although, I think perhaps to give the benefit of the doubt here, this is because they aren't involving Alfie, who could have told them this. So they're trying to deal with it themselves and they're doing it wrong.
Makes sense, yes. Yeah, so there's some convoluted nonsense about their son's friend dying and having to... But yeah, I suspected the tech guy just says, no, I can't help you.
Yeah, ask the person who sent it, or if he's dead, a relative, but wait till after the funeral.
And so Madeline realises that they're going to have to try and access the original sender's account from within Jacobson Moore.
Yes, so Edwin proposes that plan B should be her seducing Senior and stealing his computer. She's got a good reason not to go ahead with that plan.
What's that?
She's tired.
However, Edwin does give her an idea when he references a Genius Bar, and the show's logo appears at this point.
She agrees not to involve Alfie in the resolution, and we then see her in the office, the U3 office, with Billy and Sarah.
Yeah, she's moaning about computer problems and is told by Sarah that the best way to contact IT is by email, and that Olympia is in a bad mood due to losing the last time out.
She asks Madeline whether she's got confirmation that the star witness, Katya Novik, who their current case is built around, is going to show up for the trial prep meeting this morning.
Yeah, she's very keen that she does arrive for this briefing and describes what she went through and what she's now doing.
Yes, so Sarah's used to deliver this exposition. There's abuse being perpetrated by prison guards. Katya's reported it, and others have joined her in a class action, essentially, or a group action. And even though she was punished for this during her stay in prison, she's stuck with it.
It appears, the way she talks of this witness, that it is not just a professional attraction, which is picked up by Billy. And this, what I alluded to at the beginning of the podcast, I think that so up until this point, or last week, she was very professional, cold and clinical, and didn't have the private life.
That's right.
Things take quite the drastic turn in this episode. And there's a few characters, we'll get to it, but this is the first indication.
Yeah, it's almost like they ticked a box last week and now they're doing the next thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about it as we get to it. Madeline cuts off this bickering between Billy and Sarah and says they need to work together as a team before Billy calls Sarah weird for referring to Olympia as the Queen.
Yeah, at first he thought that Sarah was referring to Katya.
Yes, who she appears to be enamoured of. But no, it was Olympia, which he says is also weird.
Meanwhile, in the break, talk about weirdness. In the breakout room, Olympia is trying to find Katya on the phone and pouring her Red Bull into her coffee cup, which Julian takes from her. Now, is this Red Bull being added to coffee?
Yes, and she's putting it into her coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not just Red Bull when she doesn't want to be walking about with a can of Red Bull?
I don't think so, because later on she asks to have her coffee back.
Yeah, but maybe that's just a euphemism.
No, I don't think it matters either. I think the whole point is, yes, she's trying to caffeinate herself to a high level.
Yeah. He suggests that it's not good for her and that she should use her team more. Not relax, is that she thought that's what he was going to say?
Yeah, so she thought he was going to tell her to calm down.
Yeah.
And he says that after 11 years of marriage, he knows better.
He also has something,
as do we all.
Yes. He also has something else he wants to talk to her about, or someone else.
Yes, he's been speaking to Victor the Viking,
a neighbour in their brownstone who has been getting annoyed by a person not breaking down cardboard boxes.
I think a brownstone is a type of apartment.
It's a tenement building, yes.
Like a tenement, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very famous.
It's a bit nicer than a tenement when we see it.
Yeah, I mean, they're made out of brown stone. That's why they're called brownstones.
However did they come up with it?
Yeah, I think it's one of these things that back in the day, they weren't in the best part of town, but with gentrification now, they're very, very sought after. And yeah.
So Victor has a great offer for them.
What's that?
He's going to buy their property for 20% over market value as long as it's completed quickly.
And with cash.
Indeed.
This sounds dodgy. And as lawyers,
as Olympia points out, Julian suggests that Olympia is an antagonist towards this Victor, which might be a factor.
Yeah, I think he calls her the box bandit. I don't know, why. We're not told why she's doing this.
To wind up Victor.
Yeah, but why?
She doesn't like him.
Why?
We don't know.
We should know.
Either it just amuses her.
I think she should, she's got more important things going on than to be taunting
everyone needs a hobby.
A chap who just wants to, I wouldn't like that. Break them down.
Yeah.
The box.
I wish somebody would break down the boxes that go in my recycling.
Yeah. Your wife, you mean?
Well, it has
not
to be
you.
Me. Yeah. I wish someone other than me.
There only is one other, unless you're employing a professional box breaker.
No, I do it. I just don't break them down.
Yeah.
It'd be better if I did.
Anyhow.
Olympia's phone rings at this point, and it is, in fact, Katya.
Yes. So what she says is she agrees that they will have a chat, her and Julian, at lunchtime about the situation.
It's interesting, and again, we see it now and later, that they still seem to have these sort of relaxed interactions and habits that they haven't bothered to break since they broke up.
I like it. I mean, I think that not every breakup has to be antagonistic.
Sure.
There are people who, still are friends and hang out, apparently. Which is the ideal situation.
Something must have happened that's caused them to break up after 11 years of marriage, but something that isn't significant enough for them to actually ever mention or care about.
Yes. Do you think it's in any way tied to the Madeline's opioid case?
I doubt it, because I think, again, that would cause some sort of tension. And there's zero tension here. And it doesn't even appear like they're ignoring something. It just seems like there's genuinely no hassle between them.
In the last few weeks, it's moved from no tension to something more, actually. There does seem to be a
positive relationship.
A caring relationship anyway.
And it's not just co-parenting, it's between the two of them as well.
I think you can see that they got on, they liked each other.
Yeah.
So what is this thing that's caused them not to? It must be pretty severe.
You would think.
We'll find out.
And yet not to mention.
Yeah, it's odd. It really is odd. Anyway, she takes this call, and I think Katya tells her or mentions that she left a message with the threesome.
So Olympia goes into their office and wants to know why none of them passed on the message from Katya.
Yeah, well, Billy and Sarah are there. Madeline is in the library prepping for the case. And Sarah, she's not happy to hear that Olympia is going to take her, Madeline, with her to meet Katya, while they have to blow up the pictures of her injuries to show the jury. This is a theme that gets expanded upon in this episode, and it's been hinted at before. But yeah, Sarah is very... She's always feels vulnerable, I think. She's not confident in her position.
Yeah. She's already had these incidents where she thinks Olympia doesn't like her, she thinks her work isn't valued. So everything that she sees as reinforcing that, she puts extra stock into. Yeah,
she thinks they're being sidelined, but tells Billy not to argue the point, as she reveals to him that she's made a dating profile in order to give her more life balance.
I liked her dating profile.
Describe it.
She's copied and pasted her LinkedIn profile to show how efficient she is.
Which is her key attribute, and she's proud of that.
He says that once they do this work for the jury preparation, he will help her.
At the beauty salon where Katya works, the owner, I think, is it Sonia?
Sonia.
Yeah. Asks Olympia to take her business call outside while Maddie engages with her and talk of her or about her long and very extravagantly detailed fingernails.
Yeah, you kind of think that Mattie's about to do her thing and get through to this person, but it doesn't really work that way.
No.
Katya comes out and is clearly wary of Madeline.
Yeah, she seems a bit jittery. And when Olympia returns from her call, they walk to the back room, but Maddie holds her boss back and warns her that they cannot use her as a witness. Why not?
She's high as a kite.
Olympia does not want to believe her, as she thinks that Katya has been clean for over a year, but agrees that yes, they are allies and will trust her her decision, her view, as they walk through to the back room.
It's been really busy, but yeah, we gotta go over my testimony. I want Warden Larson to pay. All of them to pay.
Me too. Katya, are you using again?
What? No, of course not. Why would you say that?
You look like you're about to leap out of your skin, and you keep grinding your teeth.
You can't just come into my place of work and accuse me of being on drugs. You don't even know me.
That's why I brought a test with me, so you can prove that you're clean.
I had a really bad day. I've been sober for 18 months. I have chips, and I was getting really nervous about the trial, and I had this meeting with my parole officer, and I was late, and he came down really hard on me. And then I get to work, and I have the worst customer of all time. She wanted a design on every nail, but freehand. And she had all these changes, and it took me hours, and after all of that, she didn't even tip me, and she called me lazy and useless, and then I was upset, right? So when a dealer came by and offered me something, I said yes.
You need to get to a meeting and ask for some help.
I will. This was a one-time mistake. I will be sober for the trial, I promise you.
We need a new lead plaintiff.
What? No, we don't have time to rebuild our entire case.
She's already lied. Billy and Sarah didn't drop a message. She ghosted us. Addiction causes chaos. Day of, she might not even show up. I'm telling you, Katya needs to focus on recovery. We can't risk putting her on the stand.
How do you know so much about all of this?
My mother was an alcoholic. So trust me, I'm not steering you wrong.
Taking notes live, watching it for the first time, I remarked to myself that this is another lie she'll have to remember, but it turns out that's not quite the case about her mother.
I think it's true,
yes.
Given what we hear later on, yeah.
I've got a little bit of a problem with this whole notion of a dealer, a stranger, that is, not your dealer. That's not how they operate.
The whole scenario.
They walk into a nail bar. How would he know that she uses drugs? So you're just randomly walking into a nail bar and offering.
Nobody says anything.
Nobody says anything. There's cameras everywhere. You're going to try and sell random strangers drugs. And that's what Katya would have to think he's doing.
Yeah. No, it's not. Why does he not get her just since she finishes her shift? Or
Yeah, I don't think, again, dealers don't do this. They don't randomly approach people on the street.
Yeah, no, well, and he's not doing it randomly.
No, I know, but she should think this is weird. Because
yes, she should think it's weird, but even in this scenario, why is he doing it in the shop? It doesn't make any sense for that to be their plan.
No, if that was your dealer, you might walk in, give you a nod, as if to say, you can meet him out, you have a break and we'll meet in the back alley.
The only way this would make sense is if it's someone who's never sold drugs before and they're doing it as a complete improvisation.
It's like the scare stories that you hear about drug dealers pushing drugs onto school kids and all that to get them addicted. It's just urban myths and
completely 2D
nonsense. Whenever in the past I tried to buy drugs, it can be quite hard. Running about all over the place, phoning up, making lots of calls. Can you get any of this? Can you get any of that?
On Snapchat, that's where you need to go.
Well, apparently these days, no, back in the day it was not serious hard drugs, obviously, but ones that are legal probably.
Nothing illegal, no.
Anyway,
I tried to buy 3 packets of ibuprofen at the supermarket the other day and they didn't let me.
Can't do that, no.
Anyway, Matty at this point asks Olympia why she insists on referring to Billy and Sarah as a single unit.
Yeah, but so she's called the two of them.
Yes.
To tell them to start researching an alternative key witness. And on this call, she refers to them as a single unit. So that's what Maddie says when she hangs up.
Yeah. Olympia responds at this point by taking Julian's advice to delegate and says that Matty can select the new plaintiff and is in charge of her good friends Billy and Sarah before giggling.
Yeah, I think, because she realises that she's put her in an awkward position. So if she's going to offer her opinion, then let's see how you want to handle this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a point well made.
I quite like Olympia.
I do, I like her and Julian.
Yeah, if they're going to turn around and make them into bad guys, I'm not going to be happy about it.
We catch up with her outside of Jacobson Moor, where she admits to Julian that delegating is fun, as they both have a hot dog for lunch. Maybe it is, I don't know if I buy that those two would be eating hot dogs from a street vendor.
Well, it gives the impression that this is something they've done before.
Yeah,
and that he knew she would enjoy it and that he's there waiting for her because he knows that's something she likes, which is... Yeah, but it's a bit weird to keep doing that after you're divorced.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She asks if they can sell now the brownstone but move in 6 months. However, Julian tells her that this is not an option, but that Victor might be more open if she would stop torturing him with the boxes. Yes, why would you...
Well, she continues to deny that it's her that's doing this.
Yeah,
becomes quite agitated about all the ins and outs of selling and their original plan being to live there for a certain period of time to protect the children.
Julian and how he handles this situation throughout the episode is very grown up and very mature and in a respectful and decent way. So he doesn't try to argue his point. He simply tells her to eat your lunch and
but obviously he's in a position where that's easy because they don't need the money from the immediate sale. They're not antagonistic. They don't need to do anything. So he's got the luxury of being able to say it's okay. We can do it either way.
For sure. In the threesome office, Billy and Sarah have presented the 3 possible replacements to Madeline, but are then surprised.
Yeah, well, first of all, none of them are as strong as Katya, and they all have issues, including gang affiliations and repeat offending, but they do have these horrific abuse stories to tell. And yeah, Billy's quite surprised when Madeline makes a selection.
Yes, she makes her decision and then confirms that Olympia has put her in charge. So it's not a debate, it's not a discussion. She says go for her.
Yeah, Sarah's not impressed.
No, she's not shy in voicing her concern and unhappiness about this, but her mood takes a turn with the arrival of who?
Well, as we heard at the top of the show, Kira from IT shows up.
Yeah, the IT nerd looking for Maddie. And for some reason, she seems to have super duper gaydar powers when she immediately and very inappropriately asks Sarah what dating apps she's on now. What? This doesn't ring true.
Because she overhears them talking about their profile.
Does she?
Yeah, Billy says to Sarah that she can't get agitated at Madeline because she's just put on her dating profile that she's a go-with-the-flow kind of girl. And Kira hears that and says, what apps is it you're on?
Okay, maybe, but still, someone who you don't know, if it was
She's just flirting with her.
Yes, but okay, that's my point, yes. If this was a guy in an office with someone you didn't know, that would be an appropriate office behaviour. You can't flirt with people you don't know. That's creepy.
I'm not sure that's true. You can't keep flirting if they indicate they're not happy about it.
No, I think in work you want to be very professional, and before you start doing all that, asking about dating apps, you get to know someone a bit better in that environment.
Do what I say, not what I do.
Yeah. In any case, this flusters Sarah, who gets her name and her words all mixed up before we cut to Olympia, walking in the prison with the new warden, who is explaining that she is happy to have the old warden's mess cleaned up, and that she will support the complaints that have been made. So she's like this new broom, sweeping out the old rubbish, and she seems like on top of things.
However, she will not commit to using in court the phrase that she uses here to describe the previous warden's tenure.
What was that?
Reign of terror. Meanwhile, or later, in an interview room, Tiffany, who's the new selected principal witness, asks if it's true that Katja relapsed, and when she's told it is, says that she doesn't want to testify and doesn't actually want to be associated with the case at all anymore.
Yeah, but before that, I think at the time I didn't understand if there was any significance, but Olympia shakes the warden's hand, and there's a close-up of the shake as they leave.
Foreshadowing.
Yes. And I think we see a puzzled look in her face, and even with what we do find out, it doesn't make sense now because there's nothing to be puzzled about.
No.
Anyhow.
We cut back to the office where we hear more flirting from Kira and Sarah, or at least playful interaction.
Yes, I just didn't like. I don't buy this. It's okay. Firstly, Kira is kooky because she sits cross-legged on a table as she works. You know, it's like, oh, really? Okay, fine. And Sarah is more interested in her than the fact that this second choice has declined the offer.
Yeah.
She is, as we heard at the top of the podcast, more interested in rams and bad rams and good rams.
Indeed, don't want a bad ram.
No. Madeline herself uses this as a means to ask about recovering emails and finds out that as they have a server room, she could, in theory, use her laptop to find all emails that have been sent and received. Yeah,
having a server room makes no difference.
It doesn't, no.
If they're in the cloud, you could still log in with your laptop.
Exactly.
It's not like you have to go and it's not like the movies where you take a chip out of here and put a chip in there and it's like, suddenly I've got access to everything. It
just felt very 90s. This is how people thought the internet and emails worked back then. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like that terrible moment when you get into the server room but somebody else's USB card is already in the slot that you need.
Yeah, but what she does find out is that a fingerprint would be necessary to get into this room.
Yes, not eyeball scanning.
No. Which apparently the giggling Sarah finds hilarious and then tries to recover by claiming that Olympia sent her a very funny text. And Billy asks, what, from prison?
Yeah.
Olympia is not the type of person to be sending funny texts to her at any time.
No.
So, in the prison.
Yes, the second and third choices to replace Katja, Lauren and Gabrielle both refuse to testify.
Yes, without presenting any compelling reasons. Yeah, actually, I think we find out the third... So, in the prison, we see the second one refusing, and back in Olympia's office, she reveals that the third choice is...
because she tried to persuade her.
Yes.
She wasn't buying it.
And now they have no plaintiffs for their class action case, which starts the very next day.
Sarah's got some stats on that.
Yeah, what are the chances of success?
Well, when there's no face for the jury to empathise with, the chances of winning reduce by 70%.
And they cannot work out why suddenly no one is willing to speak. But Maddie thinks she knows.
She does.
She realises that Katja relapsed, so there's something that the women know about. They know that she relapsed, so they're sort of putting two and two together. She thinks it means that someone got to her.
They do.
To ensure that she didn't testify, and posits that maybe, this is quite the leap, isn't it?
It's insane.
Maybe the dealer who went to the salon was in fact one of the guards. That doesn't make sense. You would assume that Katja would recognise them then.
Yeah, of course you would. It's a terrible theory.
Yeah.
Definitely not the case. As we're about to find the court saying, anyway, Olympia agrees that they should at least try for a subpoena.
As we find out, so who was the dealer then? Because it was a setup.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the guards. It was just somebody else that they had organised.
Yeah, but you wouldn't organise it. You wouldn't say one of the guards go to the...
No, it'd be obvious.
An appallingly planned effort if that was the case.
Yeah.
And only an idiot would do that.
Exactly. So, Olympia and Maddie agree to go for a subpoena for the CCTV from the nail salon.
Yes, they also agree it's a long shot, but it's better than no shot at all, and they high-five each other, which obviously...
They say it in unison, and Sarah's already concerned that they're merging, and now she and Billy are offered lame high-fives, subsequently by Madeline, who realises that she's maybe excluded them slightly there.
Yeah, I think the damage has been done. And this is clearly something that she has been talking to Edwin about when we join them that evening at home.
I just have to keep the focus on teamwork.
Agreed. Our teamwork. Focus on me.
Yes. Sorry. Okay. Go on.
Okay, so on April 5th, Olympia sent out an email confirming the delivery of the documents to Jacobson Moore. Senior signed for them and took possession that afternoon.
Blue pens for evidence.
Do you want to do it?
No, you're doing great.
Okay. The files were scanned into the firm on April 6, 342 pages, all of which somehow mysteriously disappeared.
You go on one mission and suddenly you're Matlock.
Oh, you stop. So the very next day, April 7th, Olympia gets the email with the forwarded attachment. So Julian asks Senior how they should take care of Welbrexa.
And all Senior says is it's handled with the damn attachment.
Right.
Kira has access to every email in the firm. So all I need to do is get her computer.
So you're going to steal a computer from the woman whose job is protecting computers.
Well, it's easier than cutting off her finger.
We're not doing that stuff, right?
Quick, close it. I don't want him to know we're stuck.
Can I please have more screen time?
I like the fact that Edwin's not immediately able to rule out the possibility that she might cut off somebody's finger.
Yeah, well, she's very focused, very driven.
Alfie asks for 10 more minutes on his screen for whatever he's doing, and he is granted that.
Yes, as Maddie receives information by text that the subpoena has been denied.
No way. Really? Their terrible plan didn't get them a subpoena?
And so she reminds Edwin to be quiet as she sighs that she's too tired for plan B, which is sleeping with the judge, and instead calls Olympia to ask if she can be 3.5 hours late in the next morning.
I think I mixed up earlier this plan B with the other plan B, which was sleeping with Senior. So she's too tired to sleep with the judge. She was fine for sleeping with Senior, it just wasn't the plan. Plan C involves, yes, 3.5 hour delay. We don't know why, but we soon find out.
Yes, it's so that she can go to the salon and ingratiate herself with the owner, Sonia, after having her nails done.
Yeah, so in theory, even if they can't get a subpoena, she might be able to persuade her to give them the footage voluntarily.
She tells Madeline that she knows Katia must be back on the gear as she has went AWOL, and she's saddened by this as they've known each other for, since they were kids. And Maddie then brings her into her confidence.
She does.
She talks about the theory involving the guard as she looks up at the CCTV. Now, she is not initially convinced, but Madeline tells her about Olympia's predicament by having to open up the prosecution case without being able to mention any names.
Yeah, so Sonia asks who she's talking about if she can't mention names, and we get in my favourite moment in the episode, a cut to Olympia in the middle of her opening.
Yes, she is grasping at straws with an esoteric reference about a Babylonian king and his views on crime and punishment.
Yeah, I've got some info on that later on.
Okay.
Sarah smiles kind of tentatively, and Billy's clearly concerned, and Olympia is making the point about, even in those days, abusive prisoners was not allowed.
And she sums up by saying, or she finishes by saying, that all the women want or are looking for is accountability. I don't think that is the case. I think they're wanting punishment and they're wanting compensation.
Yeah, well, they can't get punishment through the civil court, so compensation will do. Sarah, at this point, gets a message, and when Olympia finishes, is passed a note telling her to call Madeline.
So out in the corridor, she does do this indeed, and through video, Madeline is able to show her the CCTV footage, which she has in front of her thanks to Sonia's help.
Yes, and Sonia also knows where Katia will now be, so Olympia tells Madeline to rally the team and go find her.
Yes, and they also deduce from this footage that the dealer targeted Katia.
Yeah,
because
he's dodging the cameras.
Yes. Well, see, that's the thing. She says, go and find Katia so that she can help ID him. But
she's already seen him.
Yeah.
Before they talked to her previously.
That doesn't make sense, any of this.
Yeah.
And she's going to go and negotiate the settlement at this point.
That's it.
And as she walks off, she passes the twosome and irks them again by telling them what?
To wait for Madeline's phone call.
Yeah, she will tell them where to meet her, but that they can use the company car to get there.
Indeed. So, we get another bit of misdirection here as we join Madeline in the ghetto on the phone.
Yes, a company car does pull up.
Well, she's clearly concerned. You can hear her on the phone talking like she's not happy about being there by herself.
And this car pulls up. It's outside this dodgy-looking drug den, but it's not the two of them.
No, it's Edwin, and it's not the company car, it's their limo.
We've seen this before, but we haven't discussed it. Why? I mean, how rich are they? And even considering that, they've got a full-time driver. They're both, well, she's not retired, but they were retired.
Yeah.
Do they need a full-time limo driver?
Clearly.
Well, they don't need it, but I mean, they want it.
Yeah.
They can afford it.
Even when they're trying to pretend they're poor, they still have them driving them places and showing up at things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is the only within the grasp of the super rich to have this in place.
Yes.
Anyway.
We learn from Edwin and Madeline at this point that this is an area where they would have come previously when their daughter was using.
Yeah, at first I was like, is this the actual same building? No, I think it just reminds her
It's the same
setting.
type of place, yes.
Yeah, the environment. So
it's not clear at this point if she's called Billy and Sarah.
It's not clear, no?
No.
Well, you're assuming that probably not, because it'd be very risky to have also call Edwin at the same time.
Well, this is it. Are they going to show up while he's still there and blow the cover? Anyway.
So did you mention they tearfully embrace each other?
Yeah, they're comforting one another.
Yeah.
And he gives her some reassurance and some food, apparently, in a bag, which she's then going to use to trade for information.
Why would he not go in with her? It's a dangerous environment.
I suppose Katja might mention it to somebody, and it might be an issue.
I suppose. We'll give them that. Okay. So she enters the building and hands the first zombie-like user the bag which contained what?
Tacos.
And?
More tacos?
No, Narcan.
I don't know what that is.
It's a opioid overdose reversal medication.
Right, so she knows what sort of thing they might be wanting.
Yes. And because of this gift, he motions inside when she asks about Katja. So after walking through a sort of stereotypical drug den mess past other sort of addicts, she finds her out of it on a sofa.
Yes, and when she talks to Katja, she becomes a bit overwhelmed when Katja asks her for help.
Yeah, so first of all, she reintroduces herself because she can't, or maybe Katja doesn't actually remember who she is
just
immediately.
to make sure, yeah.
And she empathises with regards to the relapse, promises she's not in trouble, she really understands what she's going through. And as you say, she starts to cry and feels guilty about not declining the offer from the drug dealer. But Madeline insists it's not her fault, she has a disease, and they both end up holding each other and sobbing as she pleads for help.
There's then an awkward moment as Madeline brings Katja back to the office just as Olympia's settlement negotiations wrap up.
Yeah, in fairness to Olympia here, this is not a good move. Bringing her in the front door. Just in general, it shouldn't, get her squared up.
You doesn't need to bring her to the office at all.
No.
She could take her anywhere.
Well, it's because she isn't treating her just like a work tool.
But she could have taken her to the flat that she's got that Olympia visited, or a public space, a cafe, anything.
Yeah. She's making some headway with the defence attorney and saying, you don't want to have Katja on the stand, she'll destroy you.
Yes.
He's about to break, I think, and maybe offer a better deal. But Katja spots Olympia and runs over like a babbling mess, saying, I'm really sorry, I'll sober up, I won't do this again. And
basically blows the negotiation.
The attorney decides that they'll proceed with the trial.
To be honest, that's a pretty damning and disgusting indictment of the American justice system if they think that a jury will find against her because she uses drugs, regardless of whether she was abused.
I do not think that it's
inaccurate.
I don't think it's inaccurate the world over. I don't think it's any different here. That'd be exactly the same situation in our courts.
This is why juries are terrible.
A lot of the time they are terrible, yeah, it depends really, yeah. And in her office we hear that Olympia has no argument against his decision, but she does have a lot to say to her new ally.
What were you thinking bringing Katja back here? You were just supposed to ask her to look at some pictures.
She needed my help. What was I supposed to do?
Stay on task. Show her the pictures.
She was crying.
The only thing we had was the threat of her testimony.
What if it was one of your twins? Katja is not a piece of testimony. She's someone's kid. And she deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Katja didn't recognize any guards.
Great. So I screwed myself for nothing.
Weird. It's almost like you're expecting us to care.
What is that supposed to mean?
Why didn't you call us?
What?
This whole time, I've been defending you. telling Sarah you weren't edging us out.
I'm not edging.
Olympia told us to wait. She told us you'd call us, you didn't.
I just...
Went alone. Yeah. Got that. After all that talk about being a team.
I thought that was a quite unusual about turn from Billy. He's more, up until this point, he's been portrayed as someone who is understanding and empathetic and takes time to understand other people's perspectives. But in this point, it's just like, no, I've had enough. But that suggests that he was building up to that.
I'm not sure. I think he is. He's been presented with the evidence. So Sarah's been making her point, but just been maybe a bit paranoid.
Yeah.
But now there's proof here that she's been going rogue, and that's not really acceptable. They were told, or Madeline was told by Olympia to bring them in, and she didn't.
Yeah, but I would have expected him to approach that with her in a more sympathetic way.
Maybe.
Based on the way he's behaved up to this point.
Sure. But I think, at this point you're going, okay, well, maybe Sarah is...
Well, and then also, I guess the point might be that he is more sympathetic to Sarah's position and he wants to demonstrate support for her. Mm-hmm. I guess, that could be a way to look at it.
That evening, Madeline tells Edwin about how the defence will destroy Katya on the witness stand and how she lost the plot with Olympia.
Edwin's emotional after their experience earlier in the day.
Yeah, so at first he sort of smirks at this and concedes that Madeline Matlock and Madeline Kingston have similar traits. And when she tells him that she is okay, it's now his turn to break down and admit how difficult it was for him being out at the drug den and the hug again.
And again, you're seeing here the cost of her decision to pursue this cause.
Again, I think it's rounding out Edwin because he's not just the sidekick to Madeline. He obviously has an emotion.
Cheerful and
but he's got just as much, or has lost just as much as what she has.
Yeah,
and you don't want him to be like sort of cartoon character who doesn't care. It's just a foil for her.
I do quite like the way that they are kind of showing the fact that they have this regret and grief over their daughter might be affecting the way that they parent their grandson as well.
Yeah. Now, this sorrowful embrace is contrasted with Olympia and her kids, who have been returned by Julian, who himself agrees with her that their kids need stability when she starts to protest about the house sale.
Yeah, he understands her position. He's not objecting to it. He has done some work. He doesn't agree necessarily that the children will suffer, and says, but if she's certain about this and that's her firm view, he will not have a problem with it.
Yeah, very mature. I think he's looked into schools nearby within the same school district, so that they won't have to...
I think properties in the same school district.
Yeah, sorry, yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Back at the Kingston residence, Alfie wants his grandmother to keep her fancy nails forever. However...
Yeah, because she's using them to sort of stroke his shoulder. It's quite relaxing, I'd imagine.
She isn't so keen, having nearly blinded herself with them earlier on.
Yeah, and then she goes on to describe how his mom, the daughter, got her nails done for prom one year, and instead of praising, she regrets saying that they look like claws.
Title of the episode. He asks why his mother...
That's quite sad, isn't it?
What is?
What he says here.
Yeah, he asks why his mother didn't just stop taking the drugs. Did she not love him enough to want to stay around?
She assures him that this is not the case, and people like her and his great-grandmother, Madeline's mother, that she referenced earlier, were born with a sort of bad gene, and how moderation was never feasible for them.
Yeah, she tells him Katya, so not about Katya, but the circumstances that she faced, and as she does, it gives her a moment of realisation.
Yeah. And it's also worth making the point there that, so she wasn't lying when she told Olympia that her mother was an alcoholic.
We assume.
Not only that, but she says to him that abstinence needs to be perfect. If you mess up once, that's a problem if you're an addict.
Yeah, 1% of the time.
Yeah, you can be perfect 99% of the time, but that one mistake does all the damage. And she describes the triggers that caused Katya to slip. Almost, he's sort of falling asleep, and she's talking it through.
Like I say, this gives her this idea, and then we see her the next day in the office with Billy and Sarah explaining her new theory.
What is it?
The belligerent customer who wound Katya up could have been part of the scheme.
Yeah, she thinks that maybe she was a female guard laying the groundwork to encourage her to slip.
Again, she would recognise a guard.
Yes, stop this.
If you're thought this through.
If you're so sort of Machiavelli, if you're so evil and conniving, you'll have other friends, other people that you can use to go in. You wouldn't.
And Katya would have mentioned it.
Indeed.
Anyway.
She suggests that the twosome take credit for this theory.
They find that quite patronising.
Yeah, she's totally misread the room here. They're not interested in pity, apparently, although not quite the case.
What they want is an explanation for her actions the previous day.
What does she say?
Well, she lies to them.
As
usual.
Yeah, she's a single grandmother. Alfie's been skipping school and she got a call from the school, and because of this, she simply forgot.
Yeah, they buy it, I think. Yeah. Or at least Billy buys it, and Sarah's not strongly opposed enough to say anything other than that.
And at this point, Olympia enters and asks what is going on. So I think there's a look between Madeline and those two saying,
yes.
okay, go for it then. And she's no qualms about taking the
Sarah,
this pity scrap, and shows off the CCTV footage of the client as her own idea. So they've got this on a laptop.
Yes, and Olympia not only expresses her delight at this good work, but also her immediate recognition of the customer.
So we skip to the courtroom where the defence attorney is more than happy for the new warden to be added as an expert witness.
Warden Caruso, Nicola Caruso, I believe.
Olympia starts by getting her to confirm that she has made a number of cultural changes at the prison, which she is very proud of.
Yes, some personnel have been retained, but nobody who is related to this case.
And she asserts that she was not in charge when the violations happened. In fact, she has never even met Katya, as she was not working at the prison at that point when she was incarcerated.
And then over a query from the opposing lawyer, she is asked whether she recently had a manicure.
Yes, she sniggers at her negative response and holds up her unmanicured hands to prove the point.
Having got the answer she was looking for, Olympia introduces the CCTV footage into evidence.
Yeah, and is apparently able to identify the warden as the nasty customer from a birthmark on her hand. I would suggest that is not enough to positively ID a person. A mark on your hand.
Yeah, well, she's not being charged with a criminal offence or anything. It's a sort of balance of probabilities situation here. And in any event, she kind of confirms it by immediately beginning to plead the fifth.
Yes, while Olympia follows this up by accusing her of deliberately triggering Katya prior to the visit from the dealer, softening her up, I suppose.
Well, yeah, antagonising her, I think, to make her vulnerable.
Yeah.
And we should maybe say the Fifth Amendment, that's you're not obliged to self-incriminate.
Yes. She again pleads this, but the judge allows, I'm not sure if that in real life how this would work, but the judge allows Olympia to ask her as an expert witness why someone working to change the broken system would seek to discredit a victim of the old system.
Yeah, and instead of just saying they wouldn't, as she's entitled to do as her expert witness, she gives a OJ type, if it were me, here's what I would have done situation.
Yes, she says that theoretically, a person might think that the settlement money could be better used if put back into the system rather than paying out to an addict, a junkie.
At this point, Olympia quotes back the rant we heard Madeline direct at her earlier in the episode.
Well, yeah, you can see that this very cold response makes Maddie seethe with rage at this, this callousness. And as you say, what does she actually say?
She talks about Katya being an individual person who deserves dignity and respect, and she asks the jury to consider their own child being in that situation.
So later on, Madeline and Sarah walk into Jacobson Moor, the building, discussing the winning settlement. So it's clear that this is, or is going to be, they assume, I suppose.
They're going to settle at a higher figure, they think.
But Madeline stops the chat when she sees who?
Kira.
Sitting at the lunch area, I think.
Yeah. In all these things, you have to, because of what we've seen up to this point in the series, you're always thinking, what is Madeline's agenda here? What is she trying to do? Yes,
for sure. So it appears that she set Sarah and Kira up for a sort of lunch date.
But we know that she wouldn't do it just for that reason.
No, she always has an ulterior motive. And I think we see this put into place. We don't immediately find out what it is.
Yeah, well, the first thing we get our attention drawn to is that Kira's laptop is in her bag.
So you're thinking, is she going to try and steal it? But that would be a bit too...
This is so retro. It's like, so only this one laptop can do what she wants. She couldn't just log into her account on another computer.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Up until now, we've seen Alfie. Basically, it's he's a whiz kid. He can hack anything. That's always been the answer. Alfie's hacked it. But now you can't do that. He needs...
Yeah. Well, they're not using Alfie, remember?
Oh, yes, that's a fair point.
But Madeline seems to have the idea that data is physically stored on the laptop.
Yeah.
It's like there's no way that all their emails and their entire system is physically on this laptop. And it's also very unlikely that Kira would have her password saved on the laptop.
No, in fairness, she doesn't say that. She's saying that she thinks that's the only way to access the server room through this.
Because she thinks Kira's going to have her logins saved and they'll autocomplete when she goes to log into the server. Like, no, it won't work that way, especially for a highly secure. There'll be two-factor authentication, like she found on Olympia's phone previously.
But come on, in fairness here, this isn't what she's doing.
No, I know, but that's what we're kind of led to think.
You don't get angry if it's something she didn't do.
Okay.
So,
anyhow.
Yeah, so she drops, firstly what she does is she creates a distraction by dropping some of her dairy pills so that she doesn't flash.
I don't know what that means, but...
if you're an intolerant, so she can eat, because she talks about how it would be smelly later on.
Why should just not eat dairy then? Okay.
Maybe it's not dairy tablets, she's just spilling some
Sarah, at this point, asks if she's trying to trauma bond her with Kira by creating this embarrassing situation.
Yeah, so these pills are dropped, they are all sort of picking them up, and at the same time, Madeline's phone, she's got an alarm on her phone, maybe a reminder to take her pills.
Yeah, so she asks Kira to silence that, which she does.
Yeah.
And
then leaves Sarah.
She says she has to go and Sarah will have to eat alone, but Kira offers to eat with her.
She'll step in.
I was sure they were going to get some sort of inappropriate reference at this point.
Oh, okay. In the threesomes office, Billy is pleased that their plan seems to have worked. So was he in on this?
He obviously knew about it, but he didn't know the whole plan. He only knew the part that was innocent.
Yes. But not only is he helping to set up Sarah, he's created another profile.
Yes, for Madeline.
On what website?
Senior something?
Senior Sweeties?
Okay.
That's a bit niche.
Grim.
Yeah. He tries to persuade her that having a partner to lean on would be good for her, but promises not to post the profile live. Again, this is quite...
What's the point then?
But also, we see this is sort of been live every week. It's a new case. So she's only been there for a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
And to be creating a profile for someone else on a dating site at her age especially seems just a little bit like, you shouldn't be doing that.
On the point that you make there about the period of time, it actually struck me how nice it must be to be a lawyer with a team of 4 people who only have one case a week to work on.
Yeah, well, only one that we see in fairness. But yeah, as I mentioned last week, and they've got enough time to be all heading out to get one signature.
Yeah, but they're always only working on that one case. Like all their time goes into this week's case.
That's the only one we see.
We see all their time.
Well, yeah, okay.
Anyway, at this point, Madeline stops Billy and turns the tables slightly.
How do you do that?
She asks why he's been dating Claudia for 8 years and hasn't yet proposed.
Maybe a bit inappropriate for the time they've known each other. Quite a personal question.
To be fair, she's just reciprocating in the tone that he's approaching
I think
her.
both of them are overstepping the boundaries here.
Yeah. She urges him to do that because his objections are irrelevant.
Well, what he says is that he's grown up around women all his life and no one really taught him how to be a husband.
So he's not going to try?
Yeah. No one teaches you how to be a husband, really.
And it's not that different from being a boyfriend or a fiancé if you're in a long-term cohabiting relationship.
Yeah, nothing changes when you propose. Like now you suddenly start to have to act differently or do different things. Anyway.
Anyhow, Billy at this point activates Madeline's dating profile before scampering across the room and receiving a text from Olympia.
Yes, to let them know that the settlement has been agreed. So as they walk to meet her, a beaming Sarah joins them and admits that she had a good lunch, but warns the golden girl not to do that again to her, or I think she
says she'll take her down.
Yeah, her decrepit old bones or something like that.
The settlement, her brittle bones.
Brittle bones,
yes.
Okay.
The settlement that the women got is $2 million.
Yes, each.
So Olympia congratulates Billy and Sarah for their good work, but Matty says they're not yet finished.
I'm going to say this again. So, in this case, you have had a woman being violently beaten, assaulted, under a duty of care, extraordinarily vulnerable, can't escape, can't run away, been abused by the system.
$2
million. Alex gets $9 million for a bit of bum touching.
That's because this case settled. They accepted $2 million. It wasn't a jury's decision.
Okay, still, all these numbers don't make sense to me.
You're belittling what happened to.
No, I'm
Alex.
saying what happened to Katya is worse than what happened to Alex. I'm not
in
belittling
your opinion?
Yes, in my opinion, yes. Because there also maybe a hint of other sort of assaults and violations, and in that environment, you wouldn't put it past, if that's the type of things that go on. But yes, they're so vulnerable. They're in there, and they get $2 million for that. Physically beaten.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's
well done,
quite
Alex.
a lot of money. Back at the Kingston mansion, Madeline explains what she meant when she said they weren't finished yet. Yes,
we find out that they've arranged for Katia to go into rehab.
Well, that'll fix it.
Well, except it might not. It's all they can do. It's not their responsibility.
They're trying to support her. Obviously, there's a risk that you give her $2 million, which she's not getting straight away, but will soon. It might be difficult for her.
I'm wondering in these cases, if you are known to have a drug habit, that you would put that in place. Okay, you'll get this, but you have to wait a certain amount of time, and you have to
show you're sober or something. I don't know if they can do that.
Yeah, who knows?
At this point, Madeline has a revelation for Edwin.
What's that?
She has got it.
Got what?
Kira's fingerprint, and we see in flashback how she obtained it.
Well, effectively, when she turned off her alarm, the fingerprint was captured on a screen protector.
Yes, which she obviously just put on for this purpose and then stored.
What are they going to do with a fingerprint like that? If assuming that they're not using Alfie,
well,
how would you use that fingerprint? If I've got your fingerprint here just now in a glass or whatever. Yep. I can't do anything with that.
Nope.
You really need to know what you're doing, if it's even possible to transfer it to a state where it could be used as a biometric.
Because it's only two-dimensional as well. Mm-hmm. They need to create a 3D printed version of this.
They would have no idea what. They think that the email is on this server.
Yeah.
How would use a fingerprint?
I think Edwin realises that, because at this point he suggests that they're going to need to bring Alfie in.
Yeah, it seems that he's had a change of heart.
I think, yes, to a certain extent he wasn't that fussed about it not panning out, but now that he's had this emotional experience at the sort of the drug den, he is more inclined to move things forward.
And there's a little sort of nod back to earlier when she asks him, how they will actually use him without going overboard. And he tells her in moderation, but obviously she had previously said that moderation does not work.
No.
And I think to an extent, maybe it's like sort of nod to herself. She has got this, perhaps, and this is an answer that we've not discussed this. So she's got this illegal drive here. She is doing something. She's so passionate. She's so driven for revenge that she's breaking all sorts of laws.
Yep.
She can't do it in moderation herself. So it's not alcohol or drugs. It's revenge is her drug.
And at some point, I think it's also just, can we achieve this? It's a sort of
a game,
like a game to them, because there's nothing that they can actually get out of this that's going to be satisfying to them. Even if they find the person who hid the documents and that person goes to jail, their daughter's still dead.
Yeah,
it's not going to make them feel any better.
Over at Olympia's home, and after the girls leave the table,
did you like their song?
Something about farts and poops and stuff.
Yeah. The fart palace or something. Yeah.
Olympia brings Julian up to speed on what she is thinking.
Regret staying for dinner?
Never. Then again, I get to leave before they come down from that sugar rush, so.
Speaking of leaving, thanks for all that legwork you did. It helped me wrap my mind around the possibility of moving and absorb the fact that, damn, my cardboard scheme drove that man mad.
So where are you at?
I'm scared.
I really think the kids will be fine.
I know they will. It's me. I'm scared to lose this.
We won't lose this. We made this.
So come on down to the book cafe.
Do you think either in this season or if we get a second season,
it's already been confirmed.
Has it? Okay, good. That Julian and, because Elijah's now, he's out of the picture.
He's in Dallas,
yeah. Do you think they two get back together again?
Well, I've got this in my questions at the end. Do Julian and Olympia really want to divorce?
Let's wrap up this episode before we get to trivia and questions.
We head back to the Kingston Manor and Matty gets a message on the dating app.
Yeah, the three are eating dinner. This message comes through and they giggle as they decide to open it to see what sort of Lothario is trying to proposition her.
However,
it's not a romantic question or even an inappropriate question.
No, it's a terrible, terrible moment for her.
Someone is asking if this is Madeline Kingston.
So just turn off the profile? Don't answer?
Maybe, if you're assuming that it's just someone shooting...
An old friend or something.
Or someone who knows who she is, it's not a big deal.
No.
Because what's he got to do? Turn up and start shouting, Madeline.
She had a dating profile, I saw it. Yeah.
Plus, it wouldn't say where she works or anything like that.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Oh, of course it wouldn't. That'd be really
ridiculous.
Putting your workplace on for strangers to see and stalk you.
She's a lawyer, which she was, so yeah, there's nothing they can do.
No.
It could easily be someone using her image that isn't actually her. That happens quite a lot, I imagine. Anyway, yeah, that's the dramatic finale.
Yeah.
So a couple of these questions I was going to ask are things we kind of touched on anyway. So Julian and Olympia don't seem like a divorcing couple, but I guess it's what they're trying to portray as these people are divorcing well. And they did obviously consciously make that decision at the start of the series.
Yeah.
Do you think the jury would have given more than $2 million ahead to the girls?
I think,
or the women?
I think they should have.
Given what we've seen.
If Alex is getting $9 million, they're like, we want to give them more.
Then would they be persuaded by the argument that they don't want to back up the prison? Which I presume is a private prison?
Possibly, and also the jury might be scumbags as well. It's like, the junkies, they'll just bloat and dope and drugs.
That's why they couldn't take the chance.
Yeah.
Do you think Billy and Sarah had a right to be angry with Madeline?
Yeah, I think they could be upset of being left out after being told to bring them in. Yeah, so I think so.
Yeah. Main case in this week's episode was a claim by women abused in prison against the prison itself. The case turned on evidence that the new warden set up one of the claimants to relapse in order to repurpose money that would have been used for the settlement within the prison system. When this was exposed in evidence, the prison settled for $2 million per plaintiff. In terms of trivia, I've got one quick thing before you get into yours. The Code of Hammurabi is real, includes provisions like execution for accusing someone of homicide and being unable to prove it. Execution for housebreaking. If the storm god Adad destroys the crops of a man who has borrowed against his yield, he won't have to make any repayments that year. If a slave denies that he is owned by his master, but the master can prove that he in fact is owned, the slave's ear should be cut off. Various things along those lines.
Seems perfectly reasonable and fair.
It's considered the earliest codified book of laws.
Sure. Okay, production information. The 7th of November 2024 was the air date in the UK. A new director this week with Marie Jamora. She was born in the Philippines on the 29th of November 1978 and has, I think, primarily had success as a music, video and commercial director, but also has worked on The Cleaning Lady, Queen Sugar, Family Style and Project Runway Philippines.
Is that a reality show?
Yeah. I think it's the models, isn't it, Project Runway? New writer as well. Not a lot of information out there about her at all. Her name is Michelle Liebel. A million little things is pretty much all she's done, and I've got no other information about her.
A rising star, perhaps?
Yeah, I think she looks from her profile picture as if she might be a bit younger. So maybe just starting out, who knows. The cast. Katia, Andrea Nicita, born in Romania in 1997 and moved to Dublin prior to Los Angeles. She has appeared in Fatal Attraction, the TV series, not the original 80s movie where she wasn't born then. Ballers, Inhumans and How I Met Your Mother, amongst a few other things.
Inhumans was a Marvel series. I think the guy who played Elijah was in it.
Yes, he was. Kira is portrayed by Piper Curda.
We assume we'll see her again.
I assume so, yeah. They'll build upon this. Born in Florida on the 16th of August 1997. You may have seen her in The Flash, Legacies, Youth and Consequences, I Didn't Do It, A.N.T. Ant Farm, or Rule the Mix. She has a Korean father and a Scottish mother.
There you go. It's a good combo.
Lynn Adriana Friedman played Sonia. She was born in New York on the 11th of August 1979. She started out as a backing dancer for CNC Music Factory, if you remember them back in the day. She's also been in Gone Girl, The Offer, You're the Worst, Jane the Virgin, Law and Order, Criminal Intent, and her father was a well-known jazz pianist.
What?
And finally, the warden was played by Kerry Cahill. What was her name? Nicola
Caruso.
Yes. She started life in Montana on June 23rd, 1982, and has appeared in The Walking Dead. I think that's her biggest show, as well as Stranger Things, Terminator Genesis, True Detective, and Common Law. Her father was Mike Cahill and was one of 13 victims who were shot and killed during a massacre in 2009. And the only trivia I had, we've discussed already, was Narcan reverses the effect of opioid overdose.
Okay, next week, Olympia and Julian work on a case that brings back some memories, while the stress of her subterfuge starts to trouble Madeline more significantly in 16 steps.
So until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.